On today's episode, we talk with Amelia Boone about World's Toughest Mudder 2017. This is the World's Toughest Podcast. Welcome to the World's Toughest Podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's World's Toughest Mudder. Each week, we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the World's Toughest Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk with Amelia Boone about World's Toughest 2017. Before we talk with her, don't forget about Monday night, November 6th. That is the Monday before World's Toughest 2017. We're going to do a live call-in show from 9 p.m. until midnight Pacific time. We're recording Monday night, and it will be online Tuesday night. Anyone can call. First-timers, seven-timers, pit crew, elites, other podcast hosts, TMHQ employees, Battle Frog employees, my mom, your mom, all are welcome. The phone number is 619-378-4369. That's 619 Druid Ox. Save the date, Monday night, November 6th. I'll be taking calls from 9 p.m. until midnight Pacific time. Just one thing before we talk to Amelia Boone. Be sure to leave a review for the podcast on iTunes, like this listener from the UK. Phil DH wrote, 5 stars. Great podcast. Will is funny, entertaining, and the content is seldom boring. If you're into Tough Mudder, give this one a go. Seldom boring, huh? Which part was boring, Phil? No, I'm just playing. Phil, I appreciate the review. Thank you very much. All the way from jolly old UK, as they call it. Across the lake, as they say. If you'd like to help make the show better, you can leave a review on iTunes also. Open the purple podcast app and search for Tough Mudder. We're the first one that pops up. Click our logo, and then scroll down and click on Write a Review. Let me know what you like or what you think I could do better. I would appreciate it. Today we're talking with Amelia Boone. Amelia is the most decorated woman in World's Toughest history with 3 wins and 1 second-place finish to her name. In her best year, 2012, she finished first among the women and second overall. She and Jun Young Pak both ran 90 miles. Pak just did it a little bit faster. It's time to talk to Amelia Boone. Let's go to the phones. Amelia Boone is a 3-time winner of World's Toughest Mudder. No other woman has won more than once. She's had dozens of articles written about her, magazine covers shot of her, beef jerky commercials made featuring her, and she was the subject of the very first chapter/case study in Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titans. I'm honored to talk with Amelia Boone. Hey, Amelia.
Hey, how's it going? That's like, that intro is way more than I deserve. Thank you.
Amelia, I saw on Twitter this morning that you hurt your hand at your last race and you recently saw your doctor. What happened to your hand and what did your doctor say?
Yeah, so I, at the Spartan Race World Championship in Tahoe, about 2 miles in, just completely smashed my fingers. And I didn't realize at the time, because adrenaline is a really funny thing, how bad it was. But I do know that it made the rest of the I couldn't grip onto things. And I was like, it's just fingers. What's going on? But so I ended up finishing the race, but saw a doctor, urgent care, and they were like, it was my finger is completely, was completely shattered. And so they had to install or put in plates and screws. And I was not expecting that. I was like, it's just a pinky. But apparently they're really gnarly if you don't get them set or healed. And so the doctor was like, we can put in pins and cast you for 3 months. And I was like, no. He's like, or we can put in these plates and screws and, it should be a quicker recovery. He's like, but no guarantees on how long. And I was like, okay, well, let's do the quicker. So that was about 3 weeks ago, and I'm starting to get mobility back in the finger, but like I'm not. I keep being like, when can I start doing X, Y, and Z? And he's like, well, you can't lift anything more than 5 pounds. And I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, okay, well, what about things like monkey bars or like hanging from a bar? And he's like, yeah, about 3 months. I was like, no, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I signed up for. So I had these like grand ambitions of like being like, I can do it. I can do world's toughest mudder still. But I think like the ground is kind of like falling away from me right now. And I'm in this space where I'm just kind of coming to grips with, that it may not be in the cards. And that's so hard for me to deal with right now. But yeah, so that's the long version of it.
No. This is a terrible question. Have you thought about like just taking all the penalties? And
I have, because, and this is the tough part, is that everyone's like, oh, somebody did it last year with their hand in a cast, and, just tape up the fingers and go. And I get that, like, and hats off and kudos to that. But it's tough for me because, like, yes, I race for fun and I love the community, but like I want to compete too. And to me, I want to compete, like, I love this race, but I have grandiose goals, and it's kind of like going out and doing a triathlon on a fixie. Like, like you can finish, but you're not going to do very well because you're handicapping yourself from the beginning. And so I've been trying to figure out, it's like, I can't, like, I would have to take penalties on every single monkey bar on Funky Monkey. Can't do Kong. I can't do anything along those lines. And so I was just like, to me, that's not an obstacle race. That's just like an ultra marathon by taking a lot of penalties, and I struggle with that because I struggle with I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, well, like I should be grateful just to be out there and run around. But yeah, at the same time, I want to give myself a fighting chance to compete. And it's just tough because like at this point, like there's no way I can, compete and feel good about, just being like, oh, I just took penalties at every single grip obstacle, which is what, all of them? I mean, aside from the barbed wire crawls, I mean, I don't know. I guess I could jump off the cliff. I don't know. But they said they're like the impact. And I'm like, oh, dear God, really? Okay, great. That's kind of where I'm at.
You missed last year because of an unrelated injury. And I know you've been training to run 100 miles this year. How do you mentally handle the injury setbacks?
I'd like to say they get easier. This one, I guess, is more annoying than anything because it's like I'm running, like, I can still do that. I had to take a few weeks off of running after surgery because the swelling of the hand. But I guess I just learned to realize that, like, life goes on and it sucks, but it's part of the price of doing what you love. And it's frustrating beyond belief. I never would expect that I would, have to miss this, like, 2 years in a row. Missing it 1 year in a row, like, crushed my soul. But I guess I just like have to like think that there's some type of plan involved, and realize that, look, I don't know. I got to figure out, this is a lot for me to process right now. So it's like, I got to figure out how to still be involved and be out there and what the best avenue is for that. Cause like I'll be in Vegas regardless. It's just like, in what capacity am I going to be out there? So
I was going to ask you, last year you were on the course, I think all night, giving out high fives and encouraging people.
Yeah.
Would you do that again, or is it too painful?
Absolutely. No, it's very painful. It's very painful, but it's very rewarding. And last year I felt like, I did a lot of live stream with Tough Mudder. And that was incredible. And I loved being able to do that and being out there. And, but at the same time, you want to compete. You want to be out there. You want to be running among everyone. And it's a tough pill to swallow. But I definitely, in whatever regard, whoever needs help, like whatever, like I'm just trying to figure this all out, like I'm trying to tie all these pieces together, and it's like 2 weeks away. It's so bad. When I had surgery, the surgeon was like, you're not going to be able to run this race. He was like, but if it makes you feel better, you can book tickets. Just make sure everything's refundable. And I was like, well, no. I was like, I'm going regardless. So that's not an issue. But it's just, you kind of hope that you'll be that person that can figure it all out. So I don't know.
A lot of OCR athletes run different race series, but you're one of the only runners I know who is beloved by both the Spartan and the Tough Mudder communities. How did you pull that off?
Luck. No, I'm so fortunate, and I actually feel really bad because like I've been away from Tough Mudder this past year, and I mean the year before, and I miss it, and I really miss it. And I think, I started off with my roots in Tough Mudder. It was the first obstacle race I ever ran. World Tough Mudder 2011 was, a crew of really stupid 900 people, and I was fortunate to be one of those. And the community is so fantastic, and so I really, it killed me to not, be able to race all of 2016. And then this past year, trying to rebuild and I kept wanting to run a toughest event. And it's like, to this day, still rebuilding from, a year off. My longest run has been 17 miles. Like, I haven't been able to build that mileage just because of like how long it's been, so running the 8 hours was never kind of in the cards for me this year. And so I was like, all right, well, we're just going to save it all up for World's Toughest Mudder. And then this kind of happens. But, to me, it's just like they're such special communities, both of them. And I actually love now that I'm seeing more people cross over and race both. And I hope it continues that way. It's tough because at the same time, like more and more, they're becoming competitors, which is weird to me because in the past it was always like, Spartan race was the uber competitive one, and Tough Mudder was like the, everyone's in this together one. And now, now it's like they're like taking on elements of each other, which I guess in some ways, but I always want us to all be one big happy family.
Let's talk about World's Toughest, maybe from a coaching perspective for you. Yeah. What do you recommend for a fueling strategy?
Ooh, that is so highly individualized for folks. And so the one thing that I noticed, and this is from running it for so many years and then going to run ultras, like straight up trail ultras, is that I can actually fuel pretty well with solid food at World's Toughest. And I would highly recommend that if you're able to stomach it, because you're moving at such a slower rate and you have to slow down for the obstacles. If I run like when I ran 100K, of just running, like I tried to eat solid food and it just rejected everything because there's so much like your heart rate is higher and you're so much more bouncing and blah, blah, blah. So, I definitely, as I tell people, like don't your body can only absorb 200 to 300 calories, blah, 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 an hour. That, and most people know that. But don't get yourself into a hole. That's the biggest thing. And that's what's really hard to come back from is if you don't fuel for a long time and then all of a sudden you're trying to dig yourself out. So it's small amounts over the course of 24 hours. And I honestly have never gone into a World's Toughest Mudder with a nutrition plan ever. And it's always just worked out. I feel like now people are so have everything down to a science. And it's almost like the pit crews are like NASCAR pit crews. Like I haven't raced when this isn't the case. I've never had a pit crew, like an official pit crew. And so it's so amazing now to see like how much of a science people have. So, it's tough because I think everyone it's really what works for you. And I've always found that solid food though works really well, for World's Toughest Mudder for me.
So if you didn't have a nutrition plan, did you just show up with a box of Pop-Tarts and a pizza, or what did you do?
I always had Pop-Tarts. it was like I had gels, but I realized gels turn my stomach really easily. But I do really well with things like peanut butter, because of the fats and whatnot. I always had a jar of pickles, primarily for the pickle juice. And just it was a lot of Pop-Tarts. I ate a lot of crackers and wheat thins. Boiled potatoes dipped in salt work really well for me. And I realized that gels don't work very well for me, but gummy bears work very well. Much cheaper than gels. So, that was always kind of my nutrition plan, and I seem to get through it.
How do you approach the wetsuit or cold protection?
Yeah. Put on your wetsuit before you are cold. That is rule number one. And you'll hear that everyone's saying that over and over again. But once you get cold, if you're cold and you put on your wetsuit, it's already too late. So it's timing your laps with the sun going down. So I remember in 2015, I knew that I wasn't going to get out of that lap before the sun went down. And so I put my wetsuit on really early, and I was miserably hot for most of the lap, but I was very thankful that I put it on too early as opposed to too late. I actually haven't looked at the weather this year. Is there a trending weather right now, or are we still too far out for that?
We're a little far out, we're a little far out, but it's trending colder. So.
Oh, okay. Then like last year, 'cause last year was so warm. I remember standing around. I was like, the 2 years that I've missed, like that I've been on the sidelines, have been the warmest years ever. I was like, what the hell? If you want a snowstorm, put me back out there running again, because apparently I bring the bad weather.
For some people, the mental grind at 2 or 3 in the morning is what breaks them.
Yeah.
How do you get through those dark places?
I find people to talk to. And it's tough when you're out on the course because it's in the middle of the night. And so there aren't as many people out. But man, if you can get your mind off of yourself for just a few minutes and talk to somebody else, oh my God, it's so great. Talking to volunteers. I talk to anyone and everyone who is around me and is willing to listen. And it's just, like a, hey, how are you? As you guys go on your merry way. I think it's definitely huge. And if there's nobody around you, I always am just like, because the course became so formulaic, it almost got in this weird like rhythm and routine. So I would think, okay, what's up next? Okay, all right, I'm just going to get to Funky Monkey, just going to get to Everest, and then just looking to the next obstacle ahead, as opposed to being like, oh man, I still got 12 hours to go. This sucks.
What advice would you give someone running WTM for the first time?
Go in with no expectations and soak up the experience, because there's nothing else like it. And really, and be kind to yourself, because it's going to get really, really hard. And so I think that that's one of the things, is that just I don't want to say don't set high goals, because everybody should have goals. But just realize that, it's so much more, the race is so much more than the number of miles you run. At the end of the day, and I've said this over and over again, nobody remembers how many miles you ran out there. No, I can't tell you. I mean, the number of friends that I have in the Tough Mudder community, I can't remember. I don't care, what they ran out there, or even whether they finished all 24 hours. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is if you're a good person out there on the course, and if you form relationships with the people around you. And I think that's so cool. And that's the magic of World's Toughest Mudder. And so for somebody running it the first time, I would say, do away with mileage goals and things like that. Just go out there to soak up the community and to feel it. And it will keep you coming back every year. And that's what's so magical to me.
Amelia, do you have any sponsors or anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. No. Yeah. I mean, I am a huge fan. I'm sponsored by Beat Elite, and they are rock stars. And for anyone out there, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people fueling with that. throughout the day and night. And if anyone ever needs taping advice, I work with rock tape as well. And for something like World's Toughest Mudder, it works. If you have injuries that need to be taped, it works really well under those wetsuits as well. So those are two big ones. And then, I work with Reebok as well. So they've been fantastic.
Any last thoughts on World's Toughest Mudder?
I am so excited. I love this event, and I'm just want to thank everyone out there who still welcomes me with open arms, even though it's, I've been away for a year or two, and whatever I can do, I'm happy to help anyone that has questions. I know there's such a wealth of information out there now, which is awesome. But I'm happy to also jump in.
Amelia Boone, thanks much.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Amelia Boone for appearing in this episode. Well done, Amelia. She mentioned how missing just 1 year last year crushed her, and now she's missing 2 years. I believe her. That talk with Amelia and I happened at the end of last week. And since then, I ran Tougher Mudder Las Vegas, and I hurt my leg. I'm going to talk more about it on our next full-size episode in a day or two, but I am not going to be able to run World's Toughest Mudder this year. And I am gutted. Just saying it out loud hurts, makes it real. So I'll be there, pitting for friends and doing some media stuff, but not being able to run is worse than walking around with a cane like an old man. Amelia and I talked after the interview, and I told her she was right. There's going to be people out there with casts on or in a wheelchair, but it's become a cliche. But just like everyone else, she needs to run her own race, and that's not her race. She could get 50 miles and finish in the top, 30 or 35 women if she wanted to, injured like she is right now, I'm sure. But that's not her race, and no one can fault her for for running her own race. So here is hoping for health for Amelia and myself and everybody else in 2018 and in 2017. Got less than 2 weeks left. Don't do anything dumb, fellas. Ladies. We'll see you in Vegas.